Hey friends, welcome to today's podcast. I'm so glad you're here. So today I have another awesome guest. Her name is Melissa McComber, and I love the internet. I love Instagram, and another guest that I found on Instagram, but she had commented on something that I had posted about kids learning about their parents' affair. And this is what she does. This is what she coaches adult children whose parents had an affair, which I think is a brilliant niche, and our kids need help. And so Melissa's your person. And one cool thing about her is she is living in Puerto Rico right now, enjoying the sunshine and beaches, I'm sure. And she's there with her husband, and I'm guessing maybe some of her kids. I don't know. But anyway, so Melissa, thanks so much for coming on my podcast. Let us know anything else you want us to know about you. And we'd love to hear your story and how you got in coaching adult children whose parents had an affair.
Great. Thank you, Jen. Very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. So my story, I guess my story started a long time ago. I discovered my mom's affair when I was 13, which was with a friend's father. And I say that because I think it makes a difference when the affair partner is in the community. It's always an interesting challenge. So that's really where my story started. It was difficult. And it wasn't until I got into my 20s that I even really started with any kind of therapy or treatment. And eventually, sometime in my 40s, I started writing a memoir about it, which is still forthcoming. But in the process of writing the memoir, I started doing research about other people who were talking about the effects of a parent's infidelity on the kids, and I didn't find too much. And having worked as a therapist previously in my career, I thought this is one of those times if you want something done, maybe I'm the one to do it. So I started building a website and a blog. I started doing research on the research that is out there about how a parent's infidelity affects the kids. And I've since then, over the last 5 years, built it into a course, an online course/group support program for adult children who are struggling with their parents' affair and who are looking to rebuild a healthy relationship with their family.
I love that so much. I feel like sometimes when you figure out your spouse is having an affair, which I'm the person that was betrayed, I think a lot of those that are cheating on their spouse, right? A lot of the betrayers, they think I only had the affair with my husband or wife. It's not going to affect the kids. And what we say to someone that believes that?
Oh, no, it's not true. It is true that it affects different kids, even within the same family, differently. And it's certainly true that some children may struggle with it more than others. So I certainly agree with that. But overall, no. When there is an agreement like marriage or committed partnership between parents, that commitment extends to the children by default. So when that commitment is broken, it's really a lie to the whole family.
Yeah. So in your story, did your parents get divorced, or what was the outcome of that?
No, my parents stayed together. So it's interesting because in some ways it was a happy ending, and in some ways it brought additional challenges. And I think that's something that adult children often find, that divorce is a struggle for kids, of course. And when parents stay together after an affair, it can also be a struggle, depending on how the parents agree to maintain their relationship after an infidelity.
Yeah. And especially, I think you were 13, so you didn't have an idea of, probably you weren't dating and all of that. And so not until you were older, you said, then you're like, wait a second, this is painful. Do you have siblings, or
I do. I have one
okay,
sibling, yes.
did they also know about the affair, or?
They did not at the time. So
Okay.
it was very different,
So for you, you
each of
find
us.
out did your mom know that you discovered the affair, or what was your, like, how did you find out and what happened after you found
I
out?
don't want to go into too many
Yeah.
of the details because that
Okay.
will come out
Yes.
in the memoir sooner or
Okay.
later.
Yes. All right.
Yep. But it was a long story, and it involved one of my favorite things to say to both parents and adult children after this happens is, this is a marathon, not a sprint. This is not one conversation and done. This is not one confrontation and done. And it can affect so many parts of your life, from not only your family, but family friendships, your faith communities. And that was the case for me all the way around. So it wasn't like one conversation and then we moved on. It was multiple conversations and multiple struggles over multiple years.
Yeah. And I'm guessing when you're a teenager, you don't even know the questions to ask.
Of
Don't
course.
understand what you're feeling.
No,
Yeah.
of course. And for kids who find out and don't know if their parents know, then it's the burden of secrecy, right? It's how do you
Yes.
hold on to that secret? And the very real fear of, like, I don't want to blow up my family at 13.
Or
Because there's so
even,
many
yeah.
consequences for that, potential
Yes.
consequences.
Yeah. And even as kids get older, I think there's a lot of secret. Do you find that most people feel like they need to hold the secret and that's what's causing them problems or?
That is definitely one. So I talk a lot about the roles that adult children can fall into after infidelity, and one of them is the secret keeper. And this can be either very explicit, like the betraying parent asks the child, "Oh, okay, this happened, but don't tell your mom or don't tell your dad." So that's very explicit, but it often ends up being even more difficult when it's something that, say, the extended family doesn't know about, because then all of a sudden the adult child is at a holiday gathering and nobody else in the family knows. And it can be so isolating for them that this huge part of who they are and their family's experience isn't part of the rest of the family, the rest of their life, which can be
Yeah.
really hard.
And I
Yep.
find shame is, there's
Yes.
so much shame in that, right?
So much
Shame
shame.
is so
Mhm.
painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't want to bring shame on their parents. Even with the anger, with the affair, they still don't want to bring shame on their parents most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to accept our reality. We
Yeah.
be in denial about it. It's like,
Yeah.
we want,
Sure.
no one wants to think that their mom or dad could do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what are some of the roles? Like you said,
Mhm.
secret keeping. Are there
Mhm.
others that tend to
Yep.
show up?
Yep. So I've identified three, and this was based on, I did a series of interviews of adult children to learn more about their stories and their pain points. And the three that came up the most often were the secret keeper, the emotional caretaker, and the mediator. So those were the
Mm.
three.
Yeah, I can
So,
already imagine what are that.
yes.
So I know so many of my clients, they bad because they find out their spouse had an affair, especially when their kids are older, and then they're venting to their kids. And I've been guilty
Yeah,
in this. What
sure.
do you suggest the child, the adult child,
Mhm.
what can they do if their mom or dad is doing that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, and very common. You're
Yes.
right. And it's a fine line, I always say, because on the one hand, you, as a parent, you want to be honest about your pain, right? You don't want to
Mhm.
cover up. Infidelity is hurtful, and you don't want to
Yes.
pretend that everything's fine, because that's not really helpful either. You want your kids to see your true self. So that's okay. It's just a line between that and then sharing with your kids or venting with your kids. Kids, I would say adult children need to learn to set some boundaries and say, this is not okay, and this is why, because it makes me feel X, Y, and Z. And they can suggest, do you have a friend? Do you have a therapist? Do you have a coach? Do you have somebody that you can talk to, turn to, and not feel guilty about that? I think a lot of times adult children listen to their parents because they love them, when they want to help them and care for them. And it's hard to be able to sit with your mom or your dad being sad and uncomfortable and not helping them, because you want to help them, right? That's part
Yes.
of loving them.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I agree. I can see that in my kids. And I've had to set my own boundaries with like, okay. But at first, it's sometimes when you first happens, you just want to like,
sure.
and it's just so hard. I guess for me, I just repaired and tried to do something.
Yes. And that was the next thing I was going to say is you can always have a do-over, right? You can
Yes.
always go back. It's never too late to say, look, I know maybe this wasn't the right thing.
Yeah.
Here's what I wish I could do differently. Absolutely. And adult children are, in my experience, they're so open to that. They so want an open and honest and loving relationship with their parents. They're really willing to do the do-overs.
Yeah, that's so good. So, as a parent, you find out your spouse is having an affair. Is there a certain, and you're getting divorced, right?
Okay.
So, it's one thing, I don't know if it's different. If you're staying married, do you ever tell? Or if you're getting divorced, do you tell? And what is the age appropriate? Because we're talking about adult kids, which technically the law says 18.
Sure.
And if anyone has 18-year-olds, you're like, they're not really
Yeah.
adult. And also, kids are, you were 13, you were smart. So, what
Yeah.
would you suggest, or what's a way to?
Sure, the breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually break it down into three age groups. And I think this is pretty common for other coaches who work with betrayed families as well, is between when you've got little kids, say before age 10 to 12, depending on the child, the messages that are important are to validate that something is wrong. And maybe you put it in the kid's language. So, mom and dad are fighting a lot more, or dad is not living here right now, whatever it is. So you need to validate that something is wrong so the kid doesn't believe, so the kids don't feel crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because they're
Or
going to
they
know
think
that
it's their
something's wrong.
fault.
Right. Or that they
Yeah.
don't think it's their fault. Yep. So that's the first important thing. The second important thing thing is it's not your fault, or it has nothing to do with you. This is mom and dad's thing. We have to figure it out. And then the third thing is just we love you, both of us, and that's not gonna change. So that's a bit simpler. Once they get to teenage years, then kids do need to know more. In my opinion, they need to know that an affair is happening. They certainly don't need the
Details. Yeah.
details, right? They don't need the intricate details at all. Do be mindful of social media or technology. I wish I could count how many teenagers have gotten in touch with me and said, I just saw on my mom's phone. As you probably know, certainly I know my teenagers are way better at technology than I am and
Yes.
can find things so much more easier, so much more
So
easily.
many people, they connect their kids' iPads to their iCloud email. And that's how sometimes the parent finds out their spouse is cheating on them through their little kid's iPad.
Oh,
And is painful, and how sad if that little kid found videos or pictures. And
yes. Yeah.
with technology, I think for sure it's harder not to get caught cheating, but also
Yeah.
just it's more painful because we have a lot more evidence.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a great point. And I think what I would add to that is that it's always better for your kids to hear it from you than it is for them to find it from anybody else or online. It's always better.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's a hard thing to say, but it's a lot harder, and it creates more pain if you think, wow, my parent is willing to lie to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a whole other layer of betrayal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I think particularly as kids move into adulthood, it's important to tell the kids, even if the parents stay together, because here's what I've heard over and over is that mom and dad, the betrayal happens, mom and dad work on it. They decide to stay together a couple years later. Then they decide to tell the kids, the adult kids, and the parents are like, we're good now, so it's okay. And the adult kids are like, but we're not good. This is not good. And so all of a sudden the kids are put in a position of, A, why didn't you tell me before? But B, the adult children now have all these feelings about the affair, and the parents may not want to go there again because they've already come out of it, and to have to go back into that story might be really hard. So that's why I always recommend, again, the sooner you can tell your adult children, again, not every gory detail, but simply what's going on, and to be as honest as you can is helpful.
Yeah, I am a very proponent of honesty. And for me, I just told my kids, I'm like, we don't lie in our family.
Yes.
Especially now. Their dad doesn't feel the same, but as far as I'm concerned, we are going to be honest. No matter how hard that truth is, we're going to say it out loud and hold space for it. Okay, so I love that. Then there's the mediator. What is that?
So the mediator, and again, all these roles can be intertwined, right? So some kids may have some bits of all three. So I don't mean to say they're mutually exclusive, but the mediator role is really when the adult child feels caught between the two parents and having to be the middle person, right? So mom and dad don't want to talk. So dad says, you need to tell your dad this. Mom says, you need to tell or dad says you need to tell your mom that. And the kids can get to feeling like if they don't perform that role, that everything will fall apart. And then they end up feeling responsible for keeping people together. And I see this a lot, especially as parents get older and have health issues. And the adult children are understandably concerned that these people need help with their health, but also don't want to keep playing this role between their parents.
Yeah,
So
that makes so for me, like I did stay married for 26 years.
Okay.
But I feel like now I've really caused a lot of damage towards my kids for what is healthy in a relationship, right? Because I stayed thinking I'm staying to protect my kids, not understanding that they were affected. They felt, even though they didn't necessarily know until the end, what had actually been happening for their entire life. So what problems do you see for the adult kids? Because you said in your 20s, you started kind of getting help, and then in your 40s, there's more. Is it with relationships? What problem these adult kids having?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I just want to say to start, I know that so many betrayed parents stay in the relationship to protect their kids. And as a mom, I totally understand that need or that want to protect. I really do. And it's such a brave thing to step out of that. I also think that honesty, having that honesty in your family is really what maintains the closeness long term. So I hope you're finding that too.
Yeah, I'm close with my, thank goodness.
That's great.
I've done a lot of repair. And I think unconsciously, I didn't realize because I
Sure.
was thinking his betrayals were just affecting me. And right, there
Sure.
was terrible help years ago.
Oh, yeah.
There was no, you would go to therapy and they weren't even addressing the affair. They're like, you need to be a better wife.
Oof.
Just terrible help.
Yeah.
There wasn't
Yeah.
betrayal trauma. There wasn't all.
Mhm.
And so as I was able to finally leave my marriage, understanding, oh, it wasn't just me living in survival, it was all affecting my kids. So, yeah. What are you finding that is really,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what happened? It's a couple of different things. So the research is pretty clear that there is a correlation between kids who grow up with a parent who has an affair and then ending up either cheating or being cheated on in their own relationships. I definitely fell in that category. It took me most of my 20s, happily before I got married, but it took me most of my 20s to really sort that out and to figure out why I was repeating this pattern that I was so ashamed of and also so against, right? In every part of me was against it and thought it was wrong and understood how painful it was, but yet I was caught in a pattern. And I think that's what happens is that adult children get caught in patterns because all kids look at their parents and their parents' relationship and that's their default, right? So they look at that and say, this is the model I see, so this is what I'm going to do. And sometimes that's actual infidelity. And just as often, it's patterns in the parents' relationship that may or may not have been part of the infidelity, but were something that the kids learned.
Yes.
So they're repeating patterns that they see without really thinking about them. So that's one bit. The second bit was just figuring out a way when parents are not, like your situation, when one parent maybe isn't ready to tell the whole story or to own the truth, or what I like to say is when the truth is not on the table. So how do you then build a relationship with your parents, assuming that you want to have contact with them? How do you build a relationship that feels good to you without feeling like you have to keep a secret all the time?
Yeah. How do you? Because I have 4 kids and different levels of interaction with their dad.
Sure.
And he ended up marrying his last affair partner. So that's
Okay.
complicated, right? That
Yeah.
complicated. And he didn't tell them he was getting married. He just went and got
Yeah.
married.
Okay.
So that was another lie.
Yeah.
And so for them, they each are dealing with it differently. One is completely no contact. The other 3 have varying degrees of contact.
Okay.
But how do you step into what is a healthy way into having a relationship with someone that you know isn't interested in the truth?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really hard one. And that's actually exactly why I started the
Yes.
support program that I did, because that is a really hard question. So I'll start with it was going to look different for everybody, right? The different levels, there's no one right level of contact that is going to be the magical solution to make you feel better. It's going to have to be figuring out the times of year, the number of phone calls, the number of face-to-face contact, all of that feels really good to you. And then once you figure out what that is, it's how do you establish the boundaries and have the hard conversations to get yourself there.
Yeah.
And that's hard too.
And I feel like some of these people don't want to have the hard conversation. They want to just be
Yes.
like, oh, that happened so long ago. Didn't you already get
Right.
over it? And the kids are like, no, I'm still not over it.
Yeah.
So I guess clearly they need to come to someone like you and get help. I don't know. There's a bad rap for people not talking to their parents.
Yeah.
The kids,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's a good reason for a lot of it.
Yeah, I think there is too. And what I would just add to your comment that some parents don't want to talk about it, and it gets into a process of grieving because then the kids have to grieve that whatever relationship they may have wanted with their family is not going to happen. And that's a process too. And then finally, how do you move on? How do you find the nourishing relationships that you want, that you need, knowing that your family may not be that for you, which is really hard. I also think this is part of my own story. I think that you can have a low contact relationship that feels good to you. You're not losing the relationship altogether. And you also figure out a way to get some of the connection that you need in other places.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel like, because I had one daughter who got married herself. And so I feel like that helped her
Yeah. Okay.
navigate because her husband was kind of a buffer, right? That helps her interact with her dad and his wife a little better than just her if she was just by herself.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that is
Yeah.
the case that these, like all relationships, different family transitions, like marriages or new
Mhm.
babies, or
Yeah.
they often, then the relationship with the parent needs to be renegotiated again
Mhm.
sometimes, right?
Yes.
Because then maybe you need to have different boundaries when you've got a child than when you, before you had a child. And
Yeah.
it's again, a marathon, not a
Yeah,
sprint.
because as kids are in college, right, they're selfish anyways, right? They're
Sure.
just thinking about themselves, which they should, that's appropriate.
Yes.
But it could be maybe when they get married or have their first baby that then they're like,
Mhm.
okay, maybe I do want to step into having some
Mhm.
contact, or
Yes.
maybe because they feel safer and more secure and they don't
Mhm.
need it, or it's not so disappointing. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're
Yeah.
also sometimes they want that connection for their own kids. Like they don't want to sever a connection that maybe their own kid might want
Yeah.
someday, or at least access to.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
so I'm just curious about the secret keeper. If you are the secret keeper, you are the adult child, do you tell the secret? Why
Mm.
is it good to get that secret out? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, there's some great science actually on the
Mm,
burden of secrets.
yeah.
That it's actually because the way I'll summarize it, because I am not a scientist,
Yeah. No.
but the sort of summary of it is that different parts of your brain is wired to tell the truth, right? That's what we want to do. That's what feels good to us. But when not telling the truth poses some kind of a threat, then the other part of your brain snaps in and says, no, you can't do that because that's threatening. And so it
Yeah.
literally puts your brain at war with itself. And
Mm.
that's part of the reason you feel the exhaustion and the
Mm.
weight of keeping a secret. So to the extent that you can share the secret safely,
Mm.
yes, that is
Yeah.
absolutely, I think, the best way forward. It's a hard thing, particularly when teenagers are still in the home and they're relying on their parents financially,
Yes.
logistically. That can be a really hard, sometimes it is worth keeping the secret.
Yeah.
But I also think you have to just acknowledge that you are hurting yourself by keeping the secret, so
Mhm.
that to acknowledge that trade-off, so that at least you're being honest about that.
Yeah, I agree. I held the secret of my husband's affairs for
Yeah.
decades.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so much shame in it because
Yes.
I thought if someone, first of all, I thought it was my fault.
Mhm.
And because I was blamed, I was the reason for,
Mhm.
according to him. I know that's not true now, which is why
Mhm.
I'm very vocal about it because I can see now the pain it caused me.
Mhm.
And then I can see it with my kids. So with my kids, I'm like,
Sure.
we're never keeping a secret again. We're
Yeah.
not doing this ever
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. That's
You
great.
can tell me that. So I have seen the burden. It
Mhm.
was so heavy. And once I could let those bricks out of my backpack
Right?
and let them go, for I can see it in
Yeah.
my own self and I can see it in the kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And you can probably, your clients, no matter what their age, if they
Mhm.
can, even if they can't, they're not going to make a billboard and say, guess what my dad did 20 years ago. They can at least get it out of them and know, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's figuring out how to talk about it with new people that you meet. You're
Yeah.
trying to build, say you move to a new place and you're trying to build a community and you want to be honest about who you are, but how do you share that story in a way that feels authentic to you without putting up a billboard or without
Yeah.
without making it a 20-minute conversation, right? Because
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And just even speaking it, like I just feel like
Mhm.
shame just keeps us so stuck.
I know.
So
True.
speaking it can just be this weight, even just saying it to one person or in a group.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
I could ask you so many other questions. What's something else? Any last things that you're like, I really want people to understand this? And
Okay.
would you
Mhm.
suggest if you're a parent and this is your dynamic, obviously your kids might need help, I guess
Mhm.
asking them, but
Mhm.
they probably do. I mean,
Mhm.
I put all my kids, I feel like every parent needs to save for college and save for therapy or coaching
Yes, me too.
because we need it. And so my kids, especially after I got divorced, I'm like, nope, we're all in therapy. We all have a coach,
Mhm.
whatever works, we're all doing the
Mhm.
work because I don't want you to be my age and have. Now,
Mhm.
some of them have been more open than others, but they all have to some degree gotten help. But what would you tell a parent like to help them understand their kids are going to need help?
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. Definitely they're going to need help and they're likely going to need help that's not you. You being honest and telling your story is definitely part of it. And particularly with teenagers, as you know, and even adult children, they have to be increasingly in control of their own healing and their own healing journey, but offering to help with that in any way that is possible. And obviously, therapy coaching is a great option. But in addition, sometimes a trusted friend's parent or a school counselor, or there are a lot of options for somebody that can be helpful to your kids. That doesn't have to be traditional therapy if that's doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
So I would say that. I think the thing I really want to leave people with, and there's so much, I don't know if you've seen this on Instagram, but there's so much online about an affair breaks kids forever and you're damaging them for good. And that's just not true. Please know that healing is possible. And this is not only what I see from my own experience, but it's in the research going back as far as the 1980s. Kids can heal. It's not a sentence. It's not a life sentence. They can heal and they can get better, and families can heal and get better. In fact, the most predictive, so how a family talks about the affair is as predictive of the health of the family as the affair itself. So it's that powerful. The way that you foster communication in your family and find healing is just as powerful, and I would argue more powerful.
I love that.
So.
Yeah. When we're not like sidebarring. Yeah. I think it's so true. It is. Yeah. I definitely believe in healing. Like I have seen it in my own life. I've seen it with other people, right? And healing's possible. I think the shame keeps us stuck, right?
Yes.
Or the idea that, oh, I've ruined my kids and there's no hope. I'm like, that's such a terrible thought and a belief.
Not. No.
Or the blame, right? Thank you so much, Melissa. This is
You're welcome.
such amazing work you're doing. I'm so glad
Thank you.
you've taken a painful experience in your life and created a lot of beauty from it to help other people. And I can't wait to read your book. That's exciting.
Thank you. Yes, that's still in the works. And I know I mentioned I am starting an online support program for adult children.
If someone wants to work with you, and I'm curious, are there different age groups that you work with? Or an adult mean 18 to 99?
Yes. So I work at this point exclusively with adults 18 to 99.
Okay.
And at the moment, the offering is an online group support community that will begin the week of September 8th. And that will be the first cohort, but there will certainly be additional cohorts after that. So if that time frame does not work for you, and it's really geared to be a program that you can be part of for some time, that it's not an 8-week session, that it would be something that you would have access to for some time. And I did that because throughout the course of a calendar year, the holidays or events come up and you may not need support every week, but for the month of December, you really do.
Yes. It's, oh my gosh, I'm going to see my mom and dad. I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to do, or I have to meet their new spouse. Or it's complicated.
It is
complicated. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Yeah. So if you're interested, go to the show notes and look to see how to get a hold of Melissa, especially if you want to be in her group, and you can sign up. And if they find this later on, they can probably just send you an email. Is that
absolutely the best place to get me? Is always my website. That will be evergreen. That's melissamacomber.com. And that also, I have a blog there that is free, and it's for adult children, but also for parents. And I'm actually working on a parents section because I get so many questions from parents. It's not together yet, but it will be. And there are a number of blog posts for parents specifically. So you can always find me. You can always find me there.
Good. You are a great resource for those of us that are experiencing betrayal as well as our kids.
Thank you.
Anyway,
thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being here, Melissa. Thanks everyone for listening. If you liked this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and I will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jen.